Welcome back to World War Live, everybody. I'm your host, Conrad Franz, here Tuesday evening, back on the normal schedule. No more of this Wednesday off day nonsense. So it's only been 6 days since the last stream, but I want to thank everybody for tuning in, whether you're watching on YouTube, X, or Substack. Please like the stream. If there is a heart or thumbs up icon anywhere in your field of vision, please immediately click that. Whatever you're doing, drop it and click the like, click the thumbs up, click the approve. It helps more than you know. Obviously, subscribe, follow on wherever you happen to be listening or watching this. But again, thank you all for joining me, giving me your time this Tuesday evening. A lot of things going on in World War III, a lot of things happening. So we're going to be discussing everything going on with Iran and the protests and Trump's seemingly inevitable strikes that the Israelis are, I guess they were pushing for, but now I guess they are wanting him to not do it because they don't think that the protests are strong enough to actually overthrow the regime. So we're going to be discussing all of this and more. There's things going on in Syria. There's things going on in Iraq. So major news updates. Obviously, if you are here, let's see it in the chat. I want to see the chat being active. And if you want to ask any questions, feel free to join us on the YouTube and leave a super chat. I will answer whatever questions are left in super chat form, no matter how silly and ridiculous. So again, thank you all so much for tuning in. It's going to be a good show. Of course, we're going to finish things off with a round of ethno guesser, obviously. But before we hop into that, I want to encourage everybody, boom, be sure to subscribe on the Substack. I haven't refreshed the page yet, so the live stream isn't going to double up. So as of right now, technically this is showing the live stream, but worldwarnow.co, it is in the description or the bio or on the profile, wherever you happen to be watching this stream. So be sure to get behind the paywall if you want to get access to all the Ether Hour content, which of course, excuse me, if you come over here, you click this tab, you get access to everything behind the paywall. All these episodes have the majority of the content behind the paywall with maybe a 20 or 30 minute free preview at the beginning. But look, most of them are an hour 40, hour and a half, sometimes over 2 hours long. So you're really going to want to be behind the paywall. I mean, our huge analysis, this is a video, by the way. This is 2.5 hour video analysis with slideshow content that Dimitri, myself, and George McMillan are commenting on. It's really, really good stuff. So be sure to check that out. Get behind the paywall. There's so much great perennial analysis. A lot of these videos, these are not the same as the World War Now weekly updates. Most of the information here is, again, perennial, historical, has to do with Orthodoxy, has to do with, again, it's interviews with very fascinating people. So please get behind the paywall and support the show. It really is the main way you can support us, of course, besides sending in any super chats. So if anybody has super chats, feel free to leave them here on YouTube, and I will answer whatever questions people may be willing to ask. Of course, be sure to follow myself on X as well. Get me up to 12K. We're getting close. So if you haven't followed me on X, make an X account and follow me and never use it instead of just doing nothing at the very least. So I think that's enough plugging. Again, worldwarnow.co. That's the main place to find the show, including this live stream. You can even tune in on Substack. I should probably check out the Substack chat now that I've already shilled. And we can mute, and I can see anybody in the chat. It is got a solid amount of people watching. I'll say good evening to the Substack chat. Everybody click the heart if you're in the Substack chat. I can see that live. So thank you all for tuning in. But we're going to hop right into some of this analysis before we dive into the ethno guesser, of course, which is one of the main reasons everybody's here. But I don't know. It's usually I've been doing this in the past, but I think I'm going to start reading. There's not really a point of reading the articles like this because then nobody can read the text. So I might just keep it like this and just read the articles because there's no pictures. So if there's no pictures or videos to be reacting to, I'll probably just stay full screen. Unless anybody feels completely strongly otherwise, feel free to let me know in the chat. But one of the main indicators of things to come, of course, is Trump has been saying that if Iran kills too many protesters, that they are going to help the protest. He tweeted on Truth Social, Iranian patriots keep protesting, take over your institutions, save the names of the killers and abusers. They will pay a big price. And of course, we've had all these conflicting reports because the Iranian regime for, at least 3 days had completely shut off the internet. They managed to jam most Starlink connections that a lot of the protester organizers were using to organize in the midst of the internet blackouts. So that was, one of the main reasons why the Iranians were sort of able to put a cap on the protests. The protests, they got very big at one point. You had Kurdish militiamen storming in from the Iraqi border and from other regions. There was major soldiers deployed. Effectively, a small invasion of Iran occurred. Major Mossad, American, European assets were deployed on the ground there to help facilitate these protests. But the success of the internet blackout seems to have allowed them to keep, again, Israeli analysis is reporting right now, they don't consider the current history of protests, the current state of the protest movement. It seems Reza Pahlavi, the ex, as Middle Eastern Spectator calls him, the clown prince of Iran, I believe he would, to resurrect the Iranian monarchy and the Shah and everything that the monarchy that had occurred there before the Iranian Revolution. He seems to have been the main political figure that the protests have coalesced around. And, he's been on video calling for, as many people to protest as possible. And it just doesn't seem that the Israelis think it's quite enough yet. So I think they want to, gin up more outrage. I mean, right now, the big dispute, as usual, with these Semitic peoples is always about the numbers, right? So the Iranian regime has reported up to 2,000 people, I think, have died. Meanwhile, we have Israeli and other Western sources saying 20K people dead, obviously trying to justify and, give the reasoning behind a aggressive strike that is, excuse me, an aggressive strike that is meant to, explicitly to decapitate the regime, to facilitate regime change in Iran. And again, even if you are able to sort of completely destabilize and take out the Ayatollah or capture him or something, there's no guarantee that the Iranian people would ever coalesce around a restored monarchy or a liberal government or something else. I mean, maybe if you worked with mullahs and other Islamic Republic officials to install a different Ayatollah or to reform the system from within with a more moderate Islamic system, maybe. But even then, I mean, there could easily be civil war, all these different factions. Again, even if Reza Pahlavi might be the most popular individual opposition figure, there are Iranian liberals and communists and others that don't support him at all. So this idea that there's one united front, united against the Islamic Republic, is just completely untrue. And the other real question, we've seen multiple different reports about how the Joint Chiefs of Staff and his cabinet have presented Trump with various options here. And this is from antiwar.com. Dave DeCamp says the White House has said on Monday that U.S. airstrikes against Iran are on the table as President Trump has continued his threats to bomb the Islamic Republic amid protests in the country. One thing President Trump is very good at is always keeping all his options on the table, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters. And airstrikes would be one of the many, many options that are on the table for the commander-in-chief. Leavitt added that diplomacy is always the first option for the president, though Trump backed an Israeli attack on Iran during the last round of nuclear negotiations back in June. The president has shown he's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary, and nobody knows that better than Iran, Leavitt said. On Sunday night, Trump suggested Iran had reached out to discuss the possibility of holding negotiations and suggested he was open to diplomacy, but also said he was considering very strong options. Iran's foreign ministry said that the communication channel between Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff and the Iranian foreign minister Abbas Araghchi remains open. I believe this is before what I read previously when Trump said that he, help is on the way and that he has, cut all contact with the Iranian regime right now. He's gone full MAGA, make Iran great again, which he did pose with a hat that said that with Lindsey Graham. So just be aware that that's what we're dealing with right now, our anti-war president. Axios and the Wall Street Journal both reported on Monday that Trump was leaning toward bombing Iran, but is still exploring the possibility of negotiations. However, it's unclear what sort of diplomatic deal would satisfy Trump as he continues to shift the pretext for potentially launching another war. In recent weeks, Trump has threatened to bomb or support an Israeli attack on Iran if it rebuilds its civilian nuclear program or continues its conventional missile program, and has repeatedly threatened to attack the country if Iranian authorities kill protesters. The Axios report said that if Trump decides to bomb Iran, the strikes would likely target elements of Iran's government responsible for internal security. Iran's position is that it doesn't seek war with the U.S., but it's warning that it will strike back if Trump follows through on his threat. If Washington wants to test the military option it has tested before, we are ready for it, Araghchi told Al Jazeera. The Telegraph reported over the weekend that amid the threats of U.S. airstrikes on Iran, the U.S. military has conveyed to President Trump that it needs time to position assets in the region to prepare for Iranian counterattacks, which would likely involve missile strikes on U.S. bases. Iranian government sources have said more than 100 security personnel have been killed in the ongoing protests, suggesting there have been significant attacks against Iran's security forces. The human rights activist news agency HRANA, a U.S.-based and U.S.-funded NGO, has also reported 133 military and law enforcement deaths, among a total of 646 people it claims to have been killed. Obviously, this article was from yesterday, so the idea is that this has increased since then, and there have been more discoveries of bodies and other things like this. But again, we are witnessing very much an attempt to overthrow the regime. It seems they're going back and forth. Obviously, today, trying to find the specific reports. Supposedly, Marco Rubio presented Trump with a list of non-kinetic options that include, I don't know, like psychological warfare and other assistance for the protesters. But I don't know, you already had proxies literally storming into Iran with guns, attacking IRGC and Iranian military officials. I don't know how else you could help them outside of just bombing Iran or putting boots on the ground. So that is that's the current situation there. But the other main thing that has been deployed, and again, who knows with Trump, he could walk this back 12 minutes from now, and I checked Telegram and it's completely changed. But there's also from anti-war, it says President Trump on Monday announced that he would be imposing a 25% tariff on any country that does business with Iran, which, if enforced, could add to the economic pain among Iranians that sparked large-scale protests inside the country. Effective immediately, any country doing business with the Islamic Republic of Iran will pay a tariff of 25% on any and all business being done with the United States of America, Trump wrote on Truth Social. The tariffs could affect China, Turkey, the UAE, Iraq, and India, all major trading partners of Iran. Trump has a history of announcing tariffs, then reversing them, but he said in the post that in order for the new Iran-related tariffs is final and conclusive. Trump's announcement came as he is threatening to bomb Iran over Tehran's response to the protests. Amid the attention on Iran, experts on a panel hosted by the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft noted that the foreign response Iranians would like to see is a lifting of U.S. sanctions, which were designed to wreck the country's economy. I think that the vast majority of Iranians would welcome a deal that lifts the shadow of war and invites the removal of sanctions, Mohammed Ali Shabani, editor of the Anwaj news magazine, said on the panel, according to Middle East Eye. And again, Trump, according to smaller reports, up to 1,000 people have died in these protests. So again, Trump sort of had to walk back his threat that if anybody dies, we're going to do threats. His new line is that if they execute any of the protesters, then there will be strikes. And supposedly on January 14th, so tomorrow, and I don't know what time it is in Iran right now. It might already be January 14th. I think so. They were supposed to execute certain protesters that have been found to be collaborators with Mossad or working for Mossad. Yeah, this is from Tabs. It says, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said during recent closed-door discussions that the administration is currently considering non-kinetic ways to support protesters. Then says, if Iran executes protesters, we will act with very strong force, President Trump said. Iran is scheduled to execute rioters they claimed are Mossad and CIA by hanging tomorrow, meaning the 14th. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that. The other, I think, probably the biggest news that has come out since then is that Saudi Arabia, who at this time are actually doing joint naval drills with Turkey, they said that they will not allow U.S. or Israel to conduct airstrikes using their airspace on Iran, which obviously Saudi Arabia, if you look at a map, maybe we should pull up the live UAE map here just to really keep things going. Not that we need to look at any of the specific conflicts, because Russia-Ukraine hasn't been quite as interesting recently. It's more so just to see the region and understand what we're working with here. Of course, there's a bajillion ads. I can refresh the page. But Saudi Arabia and Turkey and Iran, all these, basically most of them, Egypt, for example, Egypt has been moving closer and closer with Saudi Arabia. Apparently, they've been sharing intelligence related to some of the UAE's movements in Yemen and other places in order to get back in the good graces of the government in Riyadh. So it appears everybody, with the exception of the UAE, Iran, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, they're really coalescing around a new, again, multipolar, anti-Israel, sort of almost now U.S. skeptic, or at least very much Israel skeptic bloc. within in the Middle East. Again, that's the UAE is really the only powerful Muslim country that's looking from the outside in. Maybe Azerbaijan as well, but again, Azerbaijan is so dependent on Turkey that where Turkey goes ultimately, what is Azerbaijan to do to stop them, right? So why is this not? There we go. Iran. Share this tab, and then I can be small for this because there's actually something to look at. I apologize in advance if any lewd ads occur. I know I should be using an ad blocker. I just haven't set it up on my setup right now, so forgive me. But as you see, for Israel, Saudi airspace very critical for striking the south of Iran. If not, they have to go through. They can perhaps go through long amounts of Jordanian and Iraqi airspace, but generally the Iraqis don't. In theory, there are Iranian-backed militias that would try to shoot down those missiles and not allow them to strike Iran, so it's not neutral or pro-Israel territory. Of course, you have, again, Saudi Arabia has all this access, so you have to go through Syria, northern Iraq, go over these parts of Iraq ultimately controlled by the Kurds, which is likely what is going to end up happening if they don't get access to Saudi Arabia, because this is the place where the most Israel-friendly people in Iraq actually reside. Of course, in the past and during the 12-day war back in June, we heard reports that Azerbaijan facilitated Israeli jets flying down into there, which I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see that happen again. But again, you just have to remember, Tehran and the it's very strategically located here in the heart of Iran, heart of these mountains, very difficult to reach by land, and even by plane you have to go very far into Iranian territory. So the mass deployment of air defense systems has been happening for the past few weeks. We've seen large amounts of Russian cargo planes flying into Iran. Of course, one of the main reasons I think this is coming is the White House and the Pentagon are realizing that now with Venezuela neutralized and Delcy Rodriguez, the report now is that this coming week at the same time as Corinne Machado, whatever the freaking heck her Spanish name is, Delcy Rodriguez is sending a Venezuelan delegation to the White House. Well, I don't know if they're actually going to facilitate a transfer of power to Machado. That would be crazy, but it's clear that they are in many ways capitulating. And if Iran is taken out here, China is going to have a real crisis on their hands. I mean, they're going to have to almost exclusively rely on Russia for their energy needs, which I don't know. I guess in a way that could be good for Russia. Maybe that's part of why Russia is really sort of standing back and standing by. However, we did see comments more recently from Russia that did indicate that they were following more the Chinese path of standing with Iran here. We have Russian state media TASS says the Russian Federation strongly condemns the subversive foreign influence in Iran's internal political process. A Foreign Affairs Ministry spokesperson, Maria Zakharova, who I met briefly, threats from Washington to launch new military strikes against Iran are categorically unacceptable. Russia strongly condemns subversive foreign interference in Iran's internal political processes. The dynamics of the internal political situation in Iran and the decline of artificially instigated protests allow us to expect a stabilization of the situation. Russia recommends that Russian compatriots in Iran observe reasonable precautionary measures. Foreign forces hostile to Iran are trying to destroy the Iranian state using the methods of color revolutions. Russia resolutely rejects the unceremonious attempts to blackmail Iran's foreign partners by raising trade tariffs. So that's the response to the 25% Trump announcement. But again, if you look at the map, you can see what are the red dots specifically indicating are these. These are airports or air bases, I guess, that were probably struck during the 12-day war, I'm assuming. That's the latest updates here. HRNA says at least 18,137 people have been arrested in connection with the protests in Iran, which, certain outlets are saying like 10 to 20K dead. So how could there be 18K arrested and more people have died? I don't know if that's, I guess they're trying to convince people that the Iranians were just, full auto, just fully spraying into crowds, which they did have to resort to using live ammunition several times because we see these bus siege and these IRGC and other, hundreds of mosques have been burned across Iran. So it's clear these protesters are, they're not, who knows how devout of even Muslims they are, even though I'm sure most people participating would identify as Muslim. It's clear that they're, the main thing we've also seen, of course, is the massive pro-Iranian Islamic Republic marches recently look almost as large as the largest anti-regime protests we've seen. So at a certain level, it's really a 50-50 across Iran. And really, it's just certain regions like Azerbaijan region, some of these other border regions with Iran that have and obviously certain neighborhoods in Tehran made up of these ethnic minorities and more liberal elements, university students, these sorts of characters. That's going to be who makes up the bulk of the protest. But middle class people in Iran, in particular, devout religious Muslims, many ethnic Iranians themselves, Persians, who maybe that might be the largest ethnic group that supports the Reza Pahlavi and the monarchy, but I think it's also probably the largest individual group that supports the mullahs and the Ayatollah. And again, we have to realize Khamenei himself. I've talked about this a lot on the show. How, in many ways, we are one of the main reasons I think World War III is sort of still teetering on the edge. Is we have almost every institution and nation around the world is still ruled by the old guard. You have Donald Trump, Joe Biden, these people are, these are octogenarians at this point. You have Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin. These people are all over the age of 70, 75. Uh, Friedrich Merz, maybe he's a little bit younger in Germany, but even in the UK, you've got Nigel Farage leading reform. You have Narendra Modi in India. You have, and you're starting to see some countries that have the younger people, and that's where things are really moving forward. Look at Japan. They elected this I think she's Gen X, I'm assuming, woman. And now Japan is suddenly this militarizing force that's posing a real threat to China and really pushing the Americanist agenda along in the Pacific. It's one of the biggest escalations we've seen in the past few years. Look at El Salvador. They have a young, populist, charismatic leader, and they've changed the game. It's the safest country in Latin America. They're becoming a hotspot for people to move to. I mean, Bukele is making a name for himself despite being the leader of such a small country. So as this old guard of people move forward, I think we're going to see dominoes fall and collapse, and more kinetic actions actually start to happen. Because right now, it's a bunch of old people that grew up on the same system in the 20th century. They understand each other, but as new people take power, these people don't speak the same language anymore. People have retreated into their cultures, and people are, nationalism is rising all around the world for good and for ill. And I think once we see Trump might still be involved here, but once we see these the future is coming, and once these older characters see the light at the end of the tunnel, I think that's when a lot of things are really going to start to get moving. But we have $5 from eWar Mapping. Do you think the prophecy of U.S. forces destroyed trying to invade Iran is about to come true? Do you think China will help Iran this time? Well, I don't know if U.S. forces are going to try to invade Iran on the ground. I don't know if there's many prophecies that explicitly talk about that. But look, from the very get-go, China made it clear that it doesn't seem that they want to allow Iran to fall to the point of potentially openly supporting them militarily. I have no idea what that would look like besides sending them supplies. I know there is connectivity between Iran and China through Afghanistan at this point. So we could see something like that. I mean, obviously, the best thing China could do would be just to invade Taiwan to help Iran, because the Americans would immediately completely be focused on that. And then potentially Iran could, take care of Israel. That would be awesome. So if Xi Jinping, if you're hearing me, please invade Taiwan. But that would be that would obviously be the most effective way they could help. I would be surprised if they did that. China's not going to invade Taiwan sort of at the behest of another conflict. They're going to make sure that when they go in, it's going to be like a plan. So that is obviously a major update here. But if you just look at the map here, like I said, no Saudi airspace. Iraqi airspace is negligible. Syrian airspace is questioned. I mean, obviously, I don't think the Syrian regime has the power to really do anything about it, but there's all sorts of elements within Syria that probably would want to shoot these things down. So you got to make it all the way up to here in Kurdistan and Al-Hasaq governorate, go all the way over here, over Erbil, which is the capital of Iraqi Kurdistan, really Kurdistan in general. And then you can go through into Iranian Kurdistan, which is also where you have the most support and the most anti-Iranian, excuse me, Iranian sentiment. So It's not like you'd want to be doing any damage here that would affect the civilians negatively. So you've got to go all the way into Tehran here. And obviously, the Israelis have been able to strike Tehran fairly effectively here, but it's not the easiest job in the world. Well, yeah, thank you for the $5 e-war mapping. If anyone else wants to send in any super chats, feel free to lock them in, and I will answer the question. The situation in Australia is developing. Unfortunately, all these nationalist groups are having to disband because there's a law being passed that makes it illegal to do all sorts of things, and it's retroactively enforced. So if you've done any of these things, like I guess one of the examples is throw a Roman salute, in the past, your organization is subject to being banned. So these groups are having to disband, or else they risk being sort of classified basically like a gang and be RICO prosecuted effectively. But the latest news from the region, we can keep this map up here because it's all in the same area. It says here, we are closely monitoring developments in Aleppo. This is from CENTCOM, Commander Admiral Brad Cooper. We are closely monitoring developments in Aleppo and the surrounding region. We urge all parties to exercise maximum restraint, avoid actions that could further escalate tensions, and prioritize the protection of civilians and critical infrastructure. This is about the massive flare-ups that have arisen between the SDF and the Damascus regime. Sorry, I'm distracted reading chat. The Kurdish, SDF, who again, they're the main force kind of defending the autonomy of the Kurdish region that we're talking about here, is that seems that HTS has been taking massive territories of Aleppo and other places that they control. They've been pushing them back slowly but surely, despite, this happens all the time, so many ceasefires. But it goes on, we also continue to call on relevant actors to return to the negotiating table in good faith and to pursue a durable diplomatic resolution through dialogue. As I've previously stated, a Syria at peace with itself and its neighbors can lead to a more peaceful and prosperous Middle East. The United States and Syria have shared interest in preserving peace and stability across the region. And there's video of clashes in Darfur direction. That's in northern Syria. I guess there are some negotiations ongoing, but clashes have been going for several days at this point. One of the largest flare-ups we've ever seen. But it's funny, I talk about the UAE, being this, total ally of Israel. Unfortunately, Iran is still the UAE's, basically one of their largest trading partners. So if that goes through, the UAE, despite being Israel's number one ally in the region, being the number one investor of all the regions they invested $100 million more than Saudi Arabia. Theirs was almost like $1 trillion investment or something like that. Into United States, even more than Saudi's massive one. So despite all of that, UAE is still potentially going to be hit with the 25% tariff because, look, Iran is right there. It makes obvious sense why. Why the Emirates and Iran would be number one trading partners. You have the main Iranian ports on the Persian Gulf are right across from Dubai. So obviously they can be Shabbos Goyim all they want, but economics is economics. Jonathan Kelly, Super Chat Patriot, $5. He feels free to Super Chat. Everyone should feel as free as Jonathan Kelly to Super Chat. So glad to see you in chat, my brother. Always good to have the mastermind, the financier. He's the guy in the top hat and the monocle that we meet with in a dark secret location to get our large comical sack of money with a dollar sign on it to do what we do. It's all, it's Jonathan Kelly's world. We're all just living in it, right? But more breaking news is from Rerum Novarum. Very unusual U.S. military aircraft movement. 8 KC-135 Stratotankers landed in Hawaii, which was the first stop before the Middle East during the June strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. 2 KC-135Rs have just departed from Hawaii and are heading westward. So, again, one of the things people have said that these strikes aren't as likely in the next few days because there hasn't been dramatic American movements in the region, no massive plane deployments from the continental U.S. to the Middle East or across from Guam or any of these things. So that might be why, but I think we're going to have to start seeing that soon. It's clear that Trump, ironically enough, this is interesting enough that the Americans seem just as eager as the Israelis. It's the same with the Lebanon stuff. The Israelis seem that they're trying to wait for Lebanon, because the Israelis, look, they know they've lost so much political capital on the world stage that they need a pretext. Like, they need Hezbollah to strike them first. They need the Iranians to strike them first, and then they can go all out. Because if they just go at it again, I mean, it's clear that they fear, I think, this coalition emerging of Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Iran. Look, if Jordan and if Syria gets it together enough to where they can start countering Israel, and then Jordan realizes that they're the minority now, I mean, Israel loses all its friends real fast. And look, they still got America, but fundamentally, America has to deploy out there, and all those bases are huge targets for Iran and Iraqi militias in Iran and the Houthis in Yemen to strike. So we really need to realize that Israel, they don't want to start this thing unless they've got it all planned out and then can puppeteer the whole thing. Because if there's any variables, they're going to hold back, reassess, get the intelligence correct, and all of that. But we've got $10 more here from Jonathan Kelly. Prophecy pill: given Venezuela and Iran fall to Zog, wouldn't that give pretext for China to sweep across the Middle East to secure oil? I mean, yeah, like I said, there are prophecies that talk about China and Asian troops, crossing Central Asia, making it to Syria, draining the Euphrates, as the saints say. So if something like that really does occur, we could see, again, any of these past things. I mean, the invasion in 2022, Russia, Ukraine, that could have broken out into total war. The 12-day war could have turned into total world war. The Armenia-Azerbaijan situation at a certain level could have even led to a situation that would have led to a larger conflict. So the whole world is a powder keg right now. We're very much in a uh, early 20th century World War One tinderbox type situation with these different empires and their overlapping interests. Much like Russian Empire, Austria-Hungarian Empire in the Balkans, and these types of situations that led to something like the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, then leading to World War One, something akin to a world leader being assassinated, another flare-up and strikes against Iran, China feeling threatened at the energy level. These are all things that could lead to the prophetic events that we know will occur, happening in the context of, again, it's as Metropolitan Neophytos has said, they haven't announced it yet, as it were. The leaders of the world are pretending the Third World War isn't ongoing, because once that domino falls and that, psychologically the public are forced to enter into sort of a war mindset and there are more military deployments, then that's the information war gets harder and harder to control. So that is something that we could easily see. And again, I don't think China. I mean, let's say by February, U.S. and Israel are striking Iran again. I don't necessarily think China is going to deploy boots on the ground for that. But like I said, they could invade Taiwan. That could lead to America attacking China from the Pacific. So who knows what's going to happen? Obviously, we are keeping a close eye. But I do really think that if we make it through February 2026 without strikes on Iran, that was a very lucky happenstance, because I think it's pretty much baked into the cake. And we might get, much like we got with the 12-day war, we might get a few weeks of kayfabe, and Trump has split with Netanyahu, he's had enough. Oh wait, this new thing happened, maybe there's going to be a false flag, maybe a few maybe some things in Iraq and some things with the Houthis and some things with Hezbollah need to happen first. But ultimately, I think Netanyahu and Trump are on the same page. They've had many meetings to work these things out. They talk on the phone all the time. The Jews have a million back channels to Trump at any given day to pitch this stuff. I think they are going to be going in, and they're not going to do it until they think the time is right to fully take out the Iranian regime. And that's why fundamentally the question is, will the Russians stand for it? Because the Chinese, they won't stand for it, but they're not as equipped as the Russians. And frankly, yes, the Chinese need the Iranian oil, but the Russians cannot allow this country that takes up so much land to Russia's south to just fall like that. I mean, look, Azerbaijan, Georgia. It's good thing Georgia was cleaved somewhat back into the neutral sphere of things, because Armenia, Azerbaijan, Uzbek, these other places are just, Kazakhstan. I wouldn't trust these countries as far as you can throw them. Turkey, obviously not either. So it's a good thing we got the one Orthodox country down there back on side. But Iran, if it goes, it's not going to be good for the Russian situation, considering Iran is, again, even from a not a moral perspective, from sort of a political morality, for Russia to allow Iran to follow would just be horrible. I mean, Iran is one of the main reasons they were able to win and effectively counter the Ukrainian countermeasures with the full weight of the West is because of Iranian drone technology and support. So the Russians should really think twice before allowing this to fall. But at the end of the day, a lot of people think that fundamentally Putin is committed to supporting the Zionist project, regardless of anything else, even if he, you know, politically has to support Iran for obvious reasons. Another $5 from Jonathan Kelly. He says, "Do you want total war if necessary? Do you want a war more total and radical than anything that we can even imagine today? Nothing ever happens." Well, as I've said before, I think we'll all be hoping nothing ever happens when things really happen. But I agree. In many ways, nothing ever happens is somewhat of a good thing. But thank you for the $5, my friend. It says here, SpaceX engineers are working around the clock to bypass Starlink jamming by the Islamic Republic of Iran. What if Iran assassinated Elon Musk? That would be crazy. Not that I'm endorsing that, but they'd probably have a better excuse for doing that than assassinating Trump, which, again, Israel tried to convince us all that many of these assassination attempts on Trump were Iranian in origin. Which, again, I don't think the Iranians are stupid enough to think that if they did a successful assassination of Trump, that would go well for them at all. It would not. Because while Trump may be a complete puppet of Israel, there are people that are even bigger puppets of Israel that would take over and take things from there. So that is quite obvious. But let's see here. Good to see everybody on. We've got Paisios and some others on the Substack chat. Great to see everybody. Glad everyone could tune in. No breaking news on the Telegram here. So I think, we're at 40 so minutes in. Probably time to lock in on some ethno guesser if everybody else is feeling it. So here we are. Chat's not super active this evening, so I might be doing this one on my own. Might be a quicker game, might not drag it out as long, but everybody be sure to get ready to play along. Give me your guesses in chat because some of these are tough, some of these are not easy. I'm rocking the World War Now hoodie. I washed it, so the string came out here, but good stuff, solid hood. I should probably get this available before the end of the month on some kind of merch store, because I think people, World War Now patriots would look dripped out wearing the different WWN swags. So I apologize for the lack of merch availability. I'm leaving money on the table, I know, but let's dive into this ethno guesser right here. Got some East Asians. They don't look too jungly, but what does anybody think? We don't got Alan in the chat. We don't have our staple East Asian character here to really help us, and I can blame him for my bad Asia guesses by just defaulting to him. But what are people thinking? We're thinking Japanese, maybe? I think it could be Japanese. Kind of have the vibe, perhaps. Oh, wait, I'm not screen sharing. My bad. Took it away. Boom. Japanese. What's everyone thinking? Yeah, I think these are Japanese people. Maybe closer to Korea? I don't know. Yeah. Yakonins, East Asian type that has been associated with the ancient Japanese government and nobility circles. Yeah, they had kind of a Shinzo Abe kind of vibe going on here. This lady looks like the current prime minister of Japan. Shows pseudo-Semitic features and may in blend produce Indianoid individuals. I wish Alan was in chat for this. I have heard that technically Asians, you have Europeans are Japhethites, Africans are Hamites, Levantines, Jews obviously are Semites. I've heard Asians fall into the Semite category as well. So I guess in many ways, all Asians and Middle Asians, South Asians, Central Asians, and East Asians would be Semites. So these are like the ancient, I guess the Jews of Japan, they've just been more assimilated into Japanese society. Oh boy. These are straight up ancient hominids, man. Like, what are we doing? What on earth is this? What on earth is this? These are like, this is like Cheddar Man. I have no idea what's everybody thinking here. Like these are clearly ancient, like extinct phenotypes. I mean, Central Asia or like Siberia. I have no idea. This one is. I have no idea on this. 100%. Gypsies. $10 from Orthodox Phronesis for your ramen noodle supply. I do be enjoying ramen noodles. I can't even cap there. But people need to Malaysia, Turkey, Europe. Great. We got a lot of different options here. $10 more from Jonathan Kelly. Entirely unrelated. What credence do you give to the theory that Putin is the bastard of Russian royalty? What credence do you give to the theory that Putin is actually a gnome? Bastard of Russian royalty, not educated enough to say. Thank you for the $10, Jonathan. But as a gnome, I mean, I believe it is episode 12 of Ether Hour, we talk about how Putin is a descendant of the white-eyed chud, which are, these are, an Aryan, gnomic type whimsical race of deep within the tunnels into the hollow earth out in far Russia. People are saying East Europe / Turkey. I mean, I guess I'll go internal Turkey. Malaysia, Europe. All right. I really have no idea. So I'm just going to kind of go like, yeah, that's a 0. An ancient Margid subtype, probably one of the oldest migrations to America. Yeah, I got no idea about all that. So they were here. So I should have guessed Southern Oregon. I should have guessed the ocean off of Southern Oregon or Redding, California. This is where St. Herman's Monastery is out in Rockies. I guess I should have guessed North America, but I just really wasn't thinking about it like that. So we started off with a 5,000 and a 0. So we're on an average of 25K here. Now these look like these are obvious Western hemispheroids. If people have any specific thoughts on if this are North American, South American, Central American, Mexico, what do we think? We got someone saying Andean. Anybody thinking I can see that perhaps? Anybody got any other ideas? Don't want to get anything less than a 2,500 on this. We want to at least improve the average. So Bolivian, I sort of see it. The guy looks kind of Chad. The guy looks like sort of, he's like he'd be like the big chief man, Looks like that Peruvian Nazbol president. Yeah, I think maybe Peruvian Bolivian border potentially, like here. Ooh, Paraguay, but I got above 2,500. Good thing I moved to the right there. Good thing I moved to the right, but we got it pretty close. Yeah, we got Rasputin Archive. He would know. So glad to see everybody in the chat. But let's see the next round. Oh man, more engines. These got to be like North Americans. This is like, some of this Great Plains. This is like some guys that'll chase down some buffalo. Anyone have any strong disagreements? Yeah, I mean, this is some hey ahoya, hey ahoya, hey ahoya. We got Silver Sight, $5. What do you think about Americans moving to Russia to live a conservative and Orthodox life? Have you considered moving to Russia? I mean, obviously, I've been there many times, and people there ask me about it, but thank you for the $5. Thank you very much. I do love America at the end of the day, and I want America to be Orthodox. The problem is, if all the pious Orthodox people leave America, then there's nobody to evangelize the Americans. And Russia, for better or for worse, is already mostly Orthodox. So, no, if that's what works for you, if you're able to make more money there, if you think it'll be a better life for your children, especially maybe if one of the spouses has Russian heritage in some capacity, I think that's good. But I don't think that, again, maybe if things start getting so bad, maybe I'll eat these words. But right now, I think there's a lot of spiritual work that does need to be done in America. So I'm still locked in here for now. It doesn't mean I won't travel somewhere else. And I've always said if I did move to Russia, I'd move to Crimea or somewhere else. Although maybe I'd have to buy some property in the far east, east of Saint Seraphim's Trench to resist the rule of the Antichrist. But thank you, Silversight, for the question. Always good seeing you in the chat. So yeah, people seem to think that these are more north. So I'm going to go like the Montana Canadian border here. Oh boy, those are Patagonians. Totally off here. Totally, totally off. The most characteristic way of the variety of the Patagonid group, once dominated the cool grasslands of Patagonia, was pushed back to Mapuche, as well as Europeans probably had some very tall and massive subvarieties. Today only found in some Tureche, often mixed. Didn't Magellan claim to have seen like giants or something? Are they claiming these people were like super tall and that they saw them as giants? Yeah, I was right about the cold weather, just wrong pole. True, true. All right, not my best round, but we're having a good time. Let's lock back in. And we're in Africa. I'm really feeling Uganda, South Sudan, Congo, CAR. Everybody else feels strongly a different way. Please let me know. I'll apologize to Substack chat because I can't see them while I'm reading the other chat. So if you want to submit guesses, it's probably better to switch over to YouTube. But uh, someone's saying Papua New Guinea. That might have been for a previous guest though. So I'm assuming no one else is disputing my Central Africa. People are saying further south. Maybe. I mean, it could also just be out here, on some of this nonsense. It could also be down here. But a lot of this stuff is here. Sudan is like the most common place that it gets in Africa. Someone asks me, and he didn't pay, but he paid $10 before, so I'll answer it now. Are you leaning more towards marriage or monastic life? Just curious. I'm no monastic, man. I'm trying to get married. I mean, for most of the time I did the show, I had a girlfriend. I don't right now, but yeah, I'm trying to get married, man. That's not, we got monastic fans, and look, I've spent a lot of time at monasteries, so I've thought about it, and I think it's not something I don't think I could ever do, but it's definitely not the path that I have pursued, and I've not spent a lot of time in prayer, you know, asking God if that's what for me because I don't think it is. So I think I will get married like a normal person, but everyone everyone figures it out sometime. At the end of the day, there's going to be people that aren't monastics or married, and we're going to have to figure out how they can live sanctified lives as well, because that's real. But I'm gonna go here. South Sudan, Uganda, Democratic Republic of Congo. Ooh, and I was right. I should have stayed farther south. It was in Tanzania, Hadza. Still above average score, so it's good. But these are ancient types of Tanzanian Bushmen, live closest to Lake Eyasi, very distinct from any other type in the world, and has probably long been isolated. Distant relationship exists to Khoisanids. Interesting. 2026 actually, it's the year of baked Alaska. Interesting. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. All right. Got some Asians. To me, this screams like China, but we're low on Asians in this chat. We don't have any yellow men here to help me out. So what are people thinking? Someone saying Korea. I don't know. I'm feeling like southern China, maybe like Hong Kong or like down here. Yangtze River, China or Taiwan. We need the Chinamen here. You know, all these Chinese fans, and they're not in the chat. More near Beijing, northern. I don't know. Maybe I'll hedge in the middle there. Do we have any Asians in the chat? I don't know. I mean, I would say no one, like, don't dox yourself, but like, I'm not seeing any of the usual Asians, so I don't know who to trust on this question. Not seeing anything, so I think it's time. It's time we lock in. They were not Chinese. These are more Japs. Satsuma, South Mongolid type of Japan and Korea. Shouldn't have counter-signaled the Korea guess. Slightly 45 points below the average score. That's no good. That is no good. Now that I see it, I guess I see it. I shouldn't have judged them so strongly by their yellowness. Oh my gosh. This is Africa, right? Because I feel like this could be like Papua, like South Pacific as well. People saying Papua. If it's Africa, we're getting like 0 points. Just be aware of that. All right, we got 2 for Papua. Anybody think Africa? It's pretty curly, man. It's pretty black. But let's all right, let's lock it in. If it's wrong, all right, we did it. Good job. Come on. That's crap. They got I guess these are mountain people. Pygmy Melanesians. Difference to many other pygmies, shares a common history with its taller neighbors. Probably represents a secondary adaptation driven by iodine deficiency. Okay. All right. Good work, team. Everyone coalesced on that one. All right, we got Europeans, I think. Unless these are like something crazy. What do we think here, gang? Imagine being the shorter pygmies. Yeah, that might be tough. What are we thinking here, gang? Bohemia. Germanic. So we're thinking like here, maybe. Lithuanian. Dude looks white. Woman looks Iranian. Yeah, except the woman looks like she has slightly lighter eyes than the man, which is interesting. That's why I thought for a second like Iran or like Georgia or northern Lebanon. All right, so we got multiple people saying Polish, Lithuanian, Commonwealth, Germany, Bohemia. So are they Slavs or I mean, ultimately East Germans are ultimately just Germanized Slavs, but you know, do we go here or here? What are people thinking? Prussia. I could hedge in Poland. I can go Kaliningrad, which was, you know, part of, you know, Prussia occupied it and the Germans occupied it. I don't know. I kind of liked Bohemia. Maybe I'll go there. Kaliningrad is good hedge, I guess. No. To be fair, I probably wasn't going to guess this, but Canarids, Maghrebi type with similarities to Cro-Magnons and Northern Europeans. Probably a result of convergent evolution, blah, blah, blah. Africans adapted to cloudy mountain regions, partially of prehistoric migration from Europe. Historically, in some areas of the Canary Islands, blah, 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 blah. Not great. Not great. Yeah, I mean, these people, like, they don't have very light eyes. They don't look particularly, especially the woman does not look particularly European. So let's move on here. Oh, these are like Cambodian, Laotian-ass characters. So these are, you know, dang it. I was close. Shanids, Sinoid South Mongolid types, Irrawaddy Plains in the Shan Plateau of Myanmar. Guess I should have guessed Myanmar. I thought Laotian Cambodian. I literally went to college with a Cambodian kid that looked just like this guy. Like straight up. So I guess those people do a lot of mixing and, you know, it all kind of looks the same. But final section, oh boy. These are the most African looking Africans that I think ever Africaned. I mean, I almost just want to go like Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, like kind of the big three. What was everyone else thinking? Feel free to send any more super chats. So I'll answer a few more questions after because this is the last round. So I'm thinking Nigeria. Wouldn't be surprised. Ghana, Cameroon, Gabon. But I think these are classic Bantoids. Yeah. Guess I should have guessed over here, but that was pretty good. All right. Top 22% of players. You know, we still dominate. You know, we're still at the top tier. It's always if we're going to be like top 5% or like top 25%. It's really the questions. But we got I think we got 2 zeros at least. Only one perfect round, and it was the first round, so it was not our strongest performance in that regard for sure. But making sure I say hello to everyone in the Substack chat. Thank you, everyone. We got Mom Chilo in chat. Always good to see him there. George, Clement, Robert, Charles, Saoirse, Susan, all sorts of great characters. But yeah, that other one made me mad about the North Africa, Spain. I don't know, got to lock that one in. Got to like download that into the brain depository here. But thank you all for tuning in here to the end of the stream. I'm not seeing any more super chats, but let me check. Not seeing any more news on Telegram either. Just more nonsense out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, which I don't think I have anything to say about that nobody else isn't already discussing. Let's check the anti-war homepage again, see if anything new is coming up. No, there's the Greenland stuff, so you know we can look at some of that. I know we've talked about Greenland on the show before it was talked about much elsewhere, but it says here in a statement released Monday, officials in Greenland said they will intensify efforts to make sure the Arctic territory's defense is handled through the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, and that they can in no way accept President Donald Trump's plan to take control of the Danish autonomous territory. The review follows weeks of increasingly bellicose rhetoric from Trump, who told reporters that he'd prefer to strike a deal for the island, but that we are going to do something on Greenland whether they like it or not. European leaders are backing Copenhagen and Nuuk, which is the capital of Greenland, and a senior European Union official warned that any attempt to seize a NATO member's territory by force would destroy the alliance. The island's government said that its push for new NATO defense government said its new push for NATO-based defense was prompted by a joint declaration from France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Spain, and the United Kingdom, affirming that only Greenland and Denmark can decide their future. All NATO member states, including the United States, have a common interest in the defense of Greenland, the government said, adding that its goal is to ensure that the territory's security must therefore be through NATO. Copenhagen's coalition in Nuuk explicitly ruled out Washington's proposal, saying it can in no way accept a U.S. takeover of Greenland. Trump, however, has doubled down on his ambition. He said the United States must own Greenland to prevent Russia or China from doing so. Over the weekend, he told reporters that he would be open to making a deal with Copenhagen, but that if a purchase proves impossible, Washington will do it the hard way. Trump framed his insistence as a binary choice. If the United States doesn't seize the island, Russia or China will. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has confirmed that the administration is exploring a wide range of options for acquiring the territory, including using military force. So we could be seeing that. $4.99 from Jonathan Kelly. One more super chat. Always finishing it out for us. Good. Thank you so much for the donations, brother. You're really keeping the lights on here, paying the bills. Really, really helps us out. But yeah, Greenland, one of the main things. I mean, look, I don't support unipolarity. I know Nick Fuentes and the America First people have sort of come out hardcore. Both, I mean, it's kind of a not super fleshed out position. They support American hegemony in the Western Hemisphere, which I obviously support, but they also, I guess, support unipolarity in America dominating the whole world. So I don't support America, taking every blah, 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 dominating everything. But if America stopped with the Taiwan nonsense, stopped with the Ukraine nonsense, and stopped with the pro-Israel nonsense, I would totally support America taking Greenland. So if American troops go into Greenland, it's going to be cool. It's going to go hard. I'm not going to deny that. But unfortunately, it does still represent a unipolar action that likely will be to the benefit of world Jewry and of minimal benefit to the United States. If America was in control, I could see how, if white Americans, Christians were in control of the American government, I could see how that could help people, but that is unfortunately not really how it's going to go. Of course, there have been rumors, about the Patriarch of Constantinople supposedly recognizing the Montenegrin Orthodox Church. I think they would want to deep down. I think they want to control everything, but I don't think that they have any immediate plans to do that because the Montenegrin Orthodox Church, the schismatics there have almost no support. The church there has been able to rally the people there for civic action very effectively. So I don't think they want to poke that sleeping bear that is the pious people of Montenegro. But we're almost an hour, 10 minutes in. It's been a good stream. It's been a good discussion. I laid the groundwork for understanding, make sure there's midweek update about Iran and Israel and Lebanon and everything that is, of course, about to go on there. Again, tonight, tomorrow, next few days, things could happen. There's no guessing at this point. We're definitely in a rerun of June 2025. So stay vigilant, stay prayerful. Again, I want to remind everybody, stay vigilant, stay prayerful. Again, I want to remind everybody that I want to encourage everybody, worldwarnow.co. Obviously, you can see the live stream going on right there, but you can see our latest Ether Hour episode, our latest Q&A episode. Great discussion, some really great questions. We talk about, if you listen, get behind the paywall, we have a very long talk about race and the idea of the Christian race realism from an Orthodox perspective, what the saints say about it. So please get behind the paywall here at worldwarnow.co. Help the show out. Listen to this fantastic episode. Get access to the whole almost 2 hours. And of course, you as a paying subscriber will be able to ask us questions in future Q&A threads, which hopefully should be coming up probably 2-3 weeks from now. We'll drop another Q&A thread in the chat and then get an episode going. So thank you all to everybody for tuning in. Be sure to follow me on X as well if you can. It'll really help me out. Make an account even if you don't want to use it and give me a follow. It makes things easier, helps me get through a lot of the shadow banning. But if you haven't already and you have these apps, be sure to find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else really where podcasts are found. If you're already here on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. The YouTube views have been going down as well. So even if you are a Substack watcher, it does help us to click the YouTube videos, give us some views, hit like. That's one thing I want to remind everybody here on Substack in particular. The likes have been going way down. I realize on the episodes I haven't been reminding people to like, but if you haven't already, go through the previous few Substack episodes, give those likes if you listen to those and you enjoyed them. Like this stream, obviously, it's not hard. Whatever platform you're on, just click the heart or the thumbs up or whatever it is. Share the stream, like the stream. But on Substack and YouTube in particular, everybody please like the videos and the episodes. It really helps us out. It helps the algorithm recommend it to new people, and we're really needing to boost some growth here recently. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Hit those likes if possible. And with all of that, I'm not seeing any more super chats. I'm not seeing anything else. Thank you again to Jonathan Kelly, Silver Sight, Orthodox Phronesis, and Ewar Mapping for all of these super chats. It really helps us out here. And again, with all of that, it looks like we're going to land this plane. It was a good game of Ethno Guesser. It's been good. There should be part 3 of my interview with Mother Cornelia on orthochristian.com. Should be coming out sometime in the next few weeks, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Also, I should have said this at the beginning. Huge news, probably on maybe as soon as tomorrow, but most likely on Thursday. I'll probably spend tomorrow teasing it. Should be the latest installment of the Conrad and Donbass series. I know it's taken a while, but my interview with Metropolitan Mitrofan of Gorlovka, as well as my interview with several refugees who had just been rescued that week from Chasov Yar in the midst of the war zone, will be going up on Substack. And on Thursday most likely. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the Substack. You'll be the first to get the email. The first English language interview ever with Metropolitan Mitrofan, the Bishop of Gorlovka, long-suffering city in the Donbass that had very many children there have died at the unfortunate hand of the Ukrainians. So worldwarnow.co, subscribe there, be the first to see it. Huge interview with Metropolitan Mitrofan of Gorlovka and some other people I met in the Donbass. So stay tuned for that. Check it out, worldwarnow.co. But with all of that, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for tuning in. God bless.